just think about it. Like, I'm giving you guys journaling prompts as always. Don't think about the questions. Don't approach them as rhetorical questions. Really delve into them. Like, set this time apart for yourself so that you can focus on clearing up some of the traumatic emotion, the traumatic energy that is stuck in your body. And from that point, by the time that you're done with this, you'll be in a better position to assist others. Because here's the thing, everybody's asking me, well, how do I help other people who are showing up and they're clearly experiencing some trauma? The fact of the matter is, we are all currently experiencing trauma, and I really want us to own this, because we can absolutely go and give you steps and strategies and things to deal with trauma in other people. But the fact of the matter is, the only way that we are going to start creating lasting transformation and an evolution within humanity is for us to understand everything is energy, and our frequency sets the tone for everybody who comes into contact with us. Trying to help everybody else is, sorry to say, and I know that you don't mean to do this, but it is a cop-out. Our responsibility is first and foremost to always clean up our own frequency, to get it to a higher vibration of love, truth, and excellence. And from this space, we show up in the world, and that is how we are the change that the world needs right now. Now, the very first thing that I want us to start understanding is that there is so much stigma against things like trauma or depression or fear or anger or all of these emotions, which quite frankly, darling, are completely normal. They are part of the human experience. So when I start talking about trauma or anxiety or fear or any of those terms, that somebody has decided that those are bad things for us to feel, and then there's other things that are good for us to feel. Like, what are the emotions that are coming up for you? What are the judgments that will come up for you when you start hearing about trauma and going, oh no, Annelle, I don't have any trauma, because maybe, like so many of us, you've been conditioned that trauma is a sign of weakness, and that means that there is something wrong with you. No, there's nothing wrong with you, darling. All of your emotions are for you. All of your emotions are a guide, a whisper from your soul that is guiding you on your path. And the more that we deny our emotions, our true emotions of what is going on, because we want to have this tough persona, because somebody decided that when you're fearless, you are like this badass walking around conquering the world, the more that we fake it, the more we deny our emotions, the more we are in fact rejecting who we are at our core. We are saying to ourselves that being human is weak, and we would rather be a machine. That's a very, very dangerous path that we are on at the moment. So my invitation to you is to actually just invite all of your emotions in right now into this conversation, and to understand that there are no bad emotions. There's nothing wrong with anybody. People are not broken. But it's this constant denial of what is going on internally within ourselves that is really causing people to be out of integrity. Their foundations are cracking, and that is why we are seeing the crazy behavior that we are seeing right now. So today, and like I said, please go and download the workbook. It will make so much more sense for you. I want us to just bring a perspective in that when I started going into the feeling of, oh my God, I'm actually really traumatized at the moment, and I started seeing everybody's behavior around me and going, this is PTSD. This is post-traumatic stress disorder that we are seeing. I was like, oh my God, no, Annelle, it can't be that because you haven't gone to war. What is wrong with you? There's no guns involved. There's none of that. But then I was like, well, what is trauma? And trauma is just a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. A deeply distressing or disturbing experience. Now, like with anything, of course, there are various degrees and various depths of anything that we can experience, any kind of injury, whether that injury is emotional or physical. I mean, you're not going to treat a paper cut the same as a deep gash in the middle of your hand, like it's half hanging limp. You're going to treat it differently, but a cut is a cut. Now, here's the interesting thing as well. If you had to cut yourself, like nobody judges the cuts, but they will judge the emotions around the cuts. Now, trauma is trauma. I want to just bring compassion into this for a moment. 2020 started off with those raging fires in Australia, which was blasted on social media. It was traumatic. It was traumatic to see what those people were going through. It was traumatic to see what the animals were going through. It was traumatic for everybody who could see it and not being able to do anything because we are sitting thousands of miles away. It made us feel helpless in many ways. That is traumatic. Now from there, we went straight into COVID. You want to tell me that wasn't traumatic? I mean, yes, sure, we all made light out of it in the beginning, right? Ha ha ha, stupid people buying toilet paper. But it was a traumatic experience. We had never before experienced exposure to death from a virus to this degree. We had never before been exposed to being forced into lockdown. I mean, I still thank God that I was already out of my marriage, because the first thing I said is, I don't know if I would have physically survived being in lockdown with my ex. A lot of people weren't that fortunate. A lot of people who went into lockdown were still in those toxic and abusive relationships. That was traumatic, darling. From there we went straight into the racial violence. That is traumatic. And even for us who are not in America, it brought up the trauma from my childhood when I went through all of that. I have lived through that pattern in South Africa. So this year has been one traumatic event after the next, after the next, after the next, and we are refusing to actually name it for what it is and kind of going, we are living in a year of trauma because, well, we have to stay positive. As always, just put your head down and get on with it. There is so much stigma against owning our emotions. And in the process, honestly, what we are doing is we are just poisoning ourselves. Now I'm going to ask you this. What if COVID had a gun? Would you feel more compassionate towards yourself then? Would it make okay in your mind that you were traumatized if you were forced to stay in your house by the government because there were men walking in the street with guns, just randomly shooting people without any discrimination of the people, just walking with a gun and shooting with the people? Would that give you a reason? Would you feel validated in your trauma? Would you feel validated if instead of being locked in your house, you were hunkering down in a bomb bunker? Would you feel more validated in trauma? Because when we look at history and where we gave people permission to say that they experienced trauma, it was through violent death. And the thing is, virus is violent death. But it makes it even worse because at the end of the day, we don't even know who the enemy is. I remember the first time that I went shopping, when we went into lockdown and we were finally told, okay, now you guys can go and do shopping. And I drove to the shops and I saw those lines of people standing there. Not a word was spoken. Everybody was there 2 meters apart and wearing the masks. The thought in my head was, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's like the zombie apocalypse is upon us. Is that a rational thought to have? No. Was it real in the moment? Yes. I kept having flashbacks of movies that's normally around the end of the world and thinking to myself, oh my God, this is exactly what it looked like in the movies. So my ego mind is going, oh fuck, well, if this is what it looked like in the movies, because that is the only construct it has available to it, that therefore means it's the fucking end of the world that is starting here. So what were your thoughts when you first heard about COVID? What were your thoughts when you were actually forced into lockdown? Like, don't do this as a rhetorical question. Delve into this. What were your actual thoughts when you heard that there was no toilet paper? What were your thoughts when you heard people would take a salary cut? What were your thoughts when you heard that your kids wouldn't be able to go to school? More importantly, ladies, how did you feel in that moment? How did you feel in that moment? Name the emotions for yourself. And I swear to God, the next person who uses the word fine in my presence is going to get an earful. Fine is not a fucking emotion. Fine is a refusal to commit to what you are actually feeling. Why are you afraid of your emotions? Nobody feels fine. Nobody feels fine. Fine is not an emotion. So how did you actually feel when you saw all of this? The masks. How did you feel about that? What is the emotion that it actually brought up for you? Because if you're going to say to me that there was absolutely no fear in that, that there was no trauma in that, then I would actually start getting a little bit worried. When everybody is telling us that they had no reaction to what has been happening, that is deeply concerning. Because it means that there's no empathy, there's no realism, there's a complete disconnect to reality, and somewhere along the line, somebody flicked the switch to switch off their humanity. Now, it gets even worse. It does. Because when we think about it, why do people fear death? People fear death because of the unknown. That is what people are actually afraid of. They're not afraid to die. They're afraid because they don't understand what really happens after death. It is still an unknown to us, even though everybody is telling us. If there was somebody walking around with a gun, you would at least know who the enemy is. But you don't. The virus is hidden. Anybody could be the bullets. In fact, the bullets didn't even know that they were the trigger. So there's this fear that then starts happening around people that used to be friends, and now we don't trust them anymore because what if you have the virus? That makes you the enemy. Who's here? Hi, Erin. So there's an increase in fear of, well, what if you are the enemy? So now we start distancing ourselves from the people that we were connected to in the first place. Everybody becomes a suspect. There is the fear of, oh my God, What if I am the bullet? What if I am the person who becomes responsible for killing somebody else? Then there are the poor people who found that they did have the virus and now they are living with the guilt of, oh my God, how many people did I kill? You see how deep this really goes? And it's not just happening in my mind, ladies. I'm just doing the work every single day to like get rid of the smoke screens and go, and what else is happening down there? Think about it. How did COVID impact your relationships? Was there a sense of distrust? I mean, in our country, people were literally phoning the cops to tell on their neighbors if they went out of their houses. So neighbors stopped trusting neighbors. And then, of course, they've got a point where everybody was fed up with the fucking staying inside of the houses and they would start having street parties. And now everybody's going like, oh my God, they're having street parties? Are you for real? So communities actually damage the relationships because of fear. And that is truly what all of this comes down to, is fear. Trauma triggers fear in the human body. If you were not allowed to go and see people and you went to have coffee with people, what were the emotions around that for you? Was there a little bit of shame, a little bit of guilt around that? Because now you've just brought that vibration into your relationship. We can go deeper. Most people are back at work now. How safe are you feeling being back at work? How safe are you feeling going out as normal? We are all going through a change of seasons, which means flus, colds, hay fever, runny noses, all of those things. Are you still just okay that it's just a cold? Or is there like a subconscious little fear of, oh my God, what if this is actually COVID? How safe are you feeling going out of your house now? How safe are you feeling in your work environment? How safe are you feeling getting to work and going back home? How do you feel about going back home? Are you scared that maybe you are taking something home that you don't want to take home to your family? And none of this is about making you feel worse. All of this is about bringing everything to the surface so that it can be acknowledged. You see, awareness is what will set you free. Suppression and denial is what's making people sick, and not just physically sick. When we look at what's happening right now, when I look at how quickly everything is escalating, like there's one event and it's massive. And people are, everything is like 1,000 times worse than ever before. This is why, ladies, because people are so scared. They're still so traumatized from all the events of the first half of the year. They're so unstable, their vibration is already so low that anything low vibrational is going to just accentuate it. And people are overreacting. It's not overreacting, it's a desperate cry for help. All of humanity right now needs compassionate love and support. But it has to start with ourselves. I believe that your fear will show up in a lot of different ways, depending on your practiced coping mechanism. For a lot of high achievers, it will show up in hustling even more. That they will be setting even more goals. They'll be taking even more on right now to preoccupy themselves so that they don't have to deal with this. For a lot of high achievers, it's like a pendulum swing. And they're like, I don't want to fucking do anything right now. I just want to sit in the sun and drink pina coladas. For some who are normally very passionate, they've swung around and go, I just can't be fucked anymore. Can't be fucked. No fucks left to give. Taking it off. For others, they're irritated all of the time. They're angry all of the time. And they don't understand why they are angry, and they don't understand how to deal with the anger, or they have identified a specific thing which they can direct their anger at, except that thing that people are directing their anger at, it's a symptom, darling. It's got actually nothing to do with that thing. It's what's going on in here and in here. That thing is just showing up in life to get our attention. I was on a call earlier and this person was really frustrated. Really frustrated. And as he was telling me everything that he's frustrated about, my question was, what are you afraid of? Because underneath all the frustration was fear. And that's okay. How can we not be scared right now when there are so many unknowns? How can we not be scared right now if the next COVID is already coming through, the next wave is already coming through? How can we not be scared? But fear is not a problem. Denial of it, well, that is. Because we can feel the fear, we can acknowledge the fear, and receive the message from it from which to decide and take conscious action. So I want you to take a little bit of time today and identify what is your dominant emotion right now. And you'll know it. You won't want to admit to it, but you'll know it. You'll know it. And then how is it showing up in your life? Like, what is the pattern that is showing up for you right now that you are dealing with it? So if you know that you are really angry right now, well, what is the symptom that you are directing your anger at? Because once you can start understanding that, then you will start understanding that it's not about the thing. It's about the fear underneath. And the moment that you voice the fear, the moment that you allow the fear to speak, or any emotion to speak, the emotion releases. Why? Because it served its purpose. Do you ladies understand that emotions are just messengers from inside? Do you get that? Like, your emotions just have a message for you. It is your soul's way of communicating with you, of growing you, of guiding you. This is why I keep saying stop making your emotions bad. But you also have to drop your judgments and allow yourself to feel the emotions. People have become terrified of their emotions. You think that if you own the fact that you are feeling traumatized right now, that you are going to be a trauma victim. No. No, you're not. You're going to bring compassion and go, oh my God, this makes perfect sense. Now I understand the vibration that's been going on inside of me all of this time. And once I understand the vibration that's been going on inside, now I can do something about it. Like, what is it that you want to say to me? Ask the emotion. What is it that you want to say to me? Once it has spoken, you can take a step back and go, wow, okay, now, what is the gift? What is it that I can now see that I was not able or willing to see before this? There's always learning, ladies. There's always a beautiful lesson for us in our emotions, even the good feeling ones. Don't think that you just do the work for the shitty feeling emotions. All emotions have a message for you. So when we get to the point of, okay, fine, great, now, okay, I'm scared, I've been traumatized, I own it, what the fuck now? Well, now we can start actually doing some work around it. The first thing I want you to know is that everything comes back to connection. When we look at modern day society, we have become so disconnected. I'm often talking about the machine, and there really is a machine-like energy that is steering people like little minions right now to control them. And the machine is very fucking clever. So it will actually, first of all, understand that the most potent emotion with which to control people is fear. So let's make the peoples scared. The next thing that the machine understands is that when people come together in love and harmony, we become superhumans. Love is the most potent energy in creation, not just human creation, in creation of life. And when we as humans start bonding through love, we are so much more powerful than when we are on our own. So the machine identifies those individuals who are naturally very creative, very artistic, those who are here to have an impact in the world. And from childhood, it labels us as high achievers, which it tells society has to be applauded. Except high achievers need to have shame as their core. Why? Because then we can control the high achievers. We will tell them that they feel like imposters when they become their most creative, and that there's shame on that. All of this is programming, ladies. Like, all of this shit is programming. It will tell you that there is fear for failure and fear for success, and that there's shame in failure. And because you can't succeed in relationships as easily as you can in setting a goal and taking the steps and achieving it, to save face when the relationships don't go so well, go and focus on more goals. I was guilty of this for many years. Because it was easier to set goals in fitness and business and money and travel and homes and all these things than relationships. I felt completely out of fucking control in relationships, which was frustrating for me and shameful for me. So let me just go and achieve more. Because quite frankly, nobody cares about happy, healthy, romantic relationships anymore. We say that, oh, that's the honeymoon phase. It won't last. But money will. Go make more money, honey. Go build a bigger business. Then we will applaud you. And then we wonder why so many high-achieving people are so lonely. We even say it's lonely at the top. Social media could have brought us all so much closer together. Instead, it took us so much further apart from the people in our physical lives. Everything has been designed to disconnect us. And when we were about as disconnected and as lonely as what we could get, the machine isolated us. And that was the last straw for most people. So if the isolation and the disconnection was the cause, then the cure has to be connection and love. And it has to start with ourselves. Because let me tell you, there's very few women that I meet, and I meet some pretty fucking successful women who actually love, appreciate, and accept themselves. Which is why they cannot love, appreciate, and accept others, because they cannot resonate on that frequency. And that's why everybody is trying to fix everybody and trying to change everybody, because quite frankly, they don't like the mirror and they don't always want to fix themselves. Well, there's nothing to fix, darling. There's only to love again. So I want to share some ideas to start the healing process of the trauma and the fear. And I would love your questions. I would love you, if you guys are watching the replay, just put the questions and what's coming up for you in the comments, and I will come back and answer them all for you. And you might be sitting here and going, oh, Anel, this is not what I expected. I expected you to come on here with a very clinical view of PTSD and give us the clinical methodologies of curing it. No, because the trauma is real. We all went through it. It is showing up differently and in different degrees within everybody. It is showing up as different emotions in everybody, and you do not have to fix them. What we have to start doing is to work on our frequency, on our vibration, by inviting the trauma and the fear to the table and letting it be heard. And it is the same with other people who come into your experience right now. Let the fear be heard in whatever form it is showing up. Whether it's showing up as frustration or anger or whatever the case might be, it's all underlined by fear, which has been triggered by the trauma of this year. Let's bring compassion back. Let's stop the public shaming. Let's stop the blaming. Let's stop the pointing of fingers. Let's stop the labeling, ladies. Emotion is emotion is emotion. What we do need is for compassion and love to join this conversation, and it has to start with ourselves. My very first recommendation is forgiveness. Now, if you download the workbook, you'll see that some of the exercises, I have a link to another workbook for you. So when you feel into these and you kind of go, okay, I want to delve deeper into this recommendation or this suggestion, you just go and download that and you do the work on that as well. But forgiveness is so powerful. So powerful, and it's not about the other person. It is about us. It is about us saying to the universe, I desire to clear up my energy. I desire to clear up my anger, my fear, my frustration, so that I can be the change in the world. Now, the forgiveness ceremony that I've given you in this exercise is a full moon forgiveness ceremony, and you can do it every single full moon. I promise you, it will only add to your life experience. But you don't have to wait for the full moon, and you don't have to go into the formal prayers and stuff. But the concept is really powerful in identifying a person that you need to forgive, or an institution, identifying the witnesses, whether conscious or unconscious, because they have a part to play in your subconscious mind, and then most importantly, forgiving yourself. And of course, there is some things that you are blaming yourself for. You need to forgive yourself for that. And none of this needs to make logical sense, because quite frankly, the ego is not logical. It's really not. The more you start working with the subconscious mind, the more you'll understand. When you really bring it to the surface, it's not logical. Most of the shit it's saying is not even yours. It's just what you have heard or that somebody has told you, and after repeatedly saying that to yourself, then you started believing it and you've taken it on as your own. So forgiveness, numero uno. The next one is emotional freedom technique. Now, this is one of those tools that is so simple. I don't understand why this is not being taught in school. I've been saying this for years and I'll keep on saying it. EFT is one of the most powerful tools for trauma, anxiety, fear, all of those things. Now, I've even compiled a whole separate workbook for that. And in that, I've given you a anxiety tapping sequence to do, and I have given COVID specific statements to do as well. Now, I'm also going to say this. I am not a specialized EFT practitioner. It's one of my coaching tools, and understanding that coaches work with functioning human beings, right? And when I say functioning human beings, it's like fear is healthy. Fear is a normal and healthy part of life. I don't judge people for having trauma. I don't judge people for feeling depressed. I feel depressed sometimes too, so fucking what? But it's not debilitating. It's not impacting our lives to the point where we can't actually function anymore. If the trauma is at that point, I highly recommend that you either go for therapy or you go to an EFT specialist who will be able to work very deeply with you. But honestly, EFT is painless. Yes, you look like an idiot, so fucking what? You have to desire to heal more than what you care about what it looks like. But emotional freedom technique, you can find a lot about it on YouTube as well. It is effective. It is non-invasive. Every single person on the face of the earth, it should be taught in grade A. I don't understand why it's not. The next recommendation I have is going to feel really weird to most of you, and it's romance. It's romance. Bring back romance in your romantic relationship. Why? Romance is the way that we connect with the divine in the other person. Romance is the life force of the universe. This is why the machine tells us that it's a romantic fool. No, no, no. The machine knows the power of romance. And a wise man and a wise woman brings romance into their relationship regardless of how long you have been together. It strengthens that bond. It allows for a connection like no other. When last have you romanced your partner? When last have you listened to a love song and then go, oh my God, I have to share this, and sent it to him on Messenger? Do you take the time every day to just randomly say, hey honey, just wanted to let you know I'm thinking of you. I love you. I appreciate you. I can't wait to see you tonight. Are you still taking the time to put little notes somewhere in his pockets that he can find during the day? Are you taking the time to light candles and draw a hot bath on a weekend and just both of you climb in there with a glass of wine or a cup of coffee and just soak together? Do you dance with him in the kitchen? Now is the time to start bringing romance back into your life. Make it a non-negotiable. If you have a romantic partner, I want you to dial it up 100-fold. My next recommendation is compassionate communication. Anybody that comes into your experience, listen to them without the desire to fix them or to fix the problem or to give them an answer. People honestly just need to be heard, really heard, and really seen. People need to feel that they matter, that what they are feeling is okay, and that it matters. People are not feeling heard, which is why they are screaming. But they're screaming about the wrong things. Be present with people. When somebody is talking to you, have the decency to switch off all other things. The person in front of you is the only person that matters in that moment. Stop sitting with your cell phone in company and instead be fully present and respectful of the person in front of you. This is how we're going to heal the trauma, ladies. Touch. We all need human touch. And I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about holding a hand or touching a hand. giving somebody a hug, giving yourself a hug. We know about the experiments that were done with babies, where those babies who were taken away from touch literally died, even though they were given food and fluids and stuff. We need human touch. It is how we soothe somebody. It's how we calm somebody. It is how we connect with somebody when words are not enough anymore. Hug your children more than ever before. When you meet up with your friends, instead of just shaking a hand, hug them. We're all starving for human touch. The next one is to increase your self-love. Now again, there's a link to go and download the journal prompts for self-love. This changed my life. This changed my life. Because when we finally start loving ourselves, our vibration changes. All of our relationships change. Everybody in our presence change. Our standards for ourselves change. You have to take this time to increase your self-love. And this is ongoing like everything else. Nourish yourself. We did the workshop on the self-nourishment, the self-care. But take it a step further for yourself. If your friend came to you and you could see that she's traumatized, there's a slight shake to her hand because there's so much adrenaline pumping through her body. What would you offer her to eat, to drink? Would you tell her to go for a massage, have a hot bath, light some candles, do some journaling work? What would you tell the person that you love to do to nourish themselves, and then gift that to yourself? Get professional support. The day of the lone wolf has got to stop. None of us are getting through this on our own, ladies. I'm not kidding when I say this. There is no honor in trying to do this on your own. These are not normal times that we are living in. And I am still seeing struggling women wanting to help everybody else. It is not fair on you, and it's not fair on them either, because you are bringing your vibration of fear and struggle to their table and actually increasing it instead of making it better for them. You have given so much, and I know that you continue to give, but honey, it's time for you to allow yourself to receive. The last one I want to talk about is strengthening the bonds. There are certain bonds which we all require for thrive. For our personal thrive, that bond is with Source, God, Goddess, the universe, whatever you want to call it. That bond with your higher self, your soul, your inner guide. That bond with your special partner. If you are blessed with children, your bond with your children. Your bond with your family. Now, whether that's blood family or not, I know that in the times that we are living in at the moment, blood bonds, not doing so hot right now. But we can start forming families again. My ladies who did Unleash Through Love, who are now in my mastermind as well, they're not my clients, they're my family. They're my sisters. These bonds need to be looked after. Then there's the bond with community. There's the bond with Mother Earth and all life on Mother Earth. And unless we actually start looking after those bonds again, we are simply cutting the cords. And cutting the cords is actually what's making us more and more afraid, because we start thinking we are alone in all of this. Oh my God, I'm going crazy. I'm so shameful, blah, 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 blah. All this shit. That's why nobody want to say, guys, we're all traumatized. No, Annelle, you can't say that. How dare you? I'm not traumatized. I'm not afraid. Bullshit. Like, let's just stop the fucking judgment of this shit and start healing. Let's start loving ourselves, accepting ourselves, appreciating ourselves and the whole human experience that we are having. And from this space, we can start showing up for the rest of the people as alpha females. Because alpha females do this work to clear up our energy every single day. And from this space, we go into the world, we set the tone for our environment, and everybody who comes into our space leaves feeling better without us having to therapize them. I just made up that word. But it's the truth, ladies. Stop thinking you have to learn more things and more ways to fix people. No. Everybody knows inside what they need, and the only reason they're not giving it to themselves is they are self-abandoning, self-judging, self-shaming, and from this space living in denial. So let's stop that for the world by stopping it for ourselves. Now, I want to hear from you, ladies. What are you taking away from this? Once you've downloaded the workbook and you've done the deep delving, what is it that you discovered of what's going on for you right now? Let's start having this conversation here in this community. Because at the end of the day, that's what this community is for. Open and honest conversations from which we can all grow and we can all support each other and feel supported in the process. So I'm going to ask you, please, please, please do this work and then share this with other people. Will everybody receive this? No, because they don't want to own up to the fact that they're feeling scared. But you know what? If you just send the workbook to somebody and go, hey, this is crazy chick, don't know what the fuck she's on about, but got this workbook from her and I actually thought it was a little bit interesting. Here it is if you want to have a look at it. If you don't, it's cool. But you know what? I got something out of it. Maybe you will too. And just leave it at that. Don't ram it down their throats. Don't tell them they have to do this. People hate that. And we don't want that pressure. We want to start inviting people to consciously create their own experience. Love invites, fear instructs. Just remember that. Love invites, fear instructs. I really hope that this has been valuable for you. Whatever you are feeling is not wrong. It has a message for you. It's time to bring compassion, and it's time for us to actually start increasing our vibration, from which we can start increasing the vibration again in the world. Not being in their faces, but with love and compassion. Death is inevitable. Thrive is a choice. You guys know I love you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. And I really do want to hear from you. Have an amazing weekend. Cheers.